now I'm starting with German unification. More or less, the story is again same. The story is like there is one Germany which is divided into many parts, and in these parts, different kings are ruling. One of the big states. All right. So this was Germany. This Germany was divided into many small countries. Right? Many small countries. So there is one Germany which is divided into many countries. And in every country, there are different dukes who rule, right? As we say, na, there are small kings. So there are dukes who rule in every German state. One of the biggest German states is Prussia. It is one of the biggest states, right? Now, there is Austria. Now, when we have Austria here, Austria, I told you, it was Habsburg Empire, which was a very big empire, very influential empire. So the Austrians had their influence on the South German states. Now, what I mean by influence, all the dukes here, they had their allegiance towards Austrian king. They always considered the king of Austria as their superior. Now, because most of the southern states in Germany, they have their allegiance with Austria. So the other states, they alone cannot match the status of Austria. So Austria as a nation had a very deep impact on the politics of Germany's, right? Because Germany, South German states, they are supporting Austria. So Austria had a very strong influence in the German states. There was a body called like parliament. There was a body like parliament, not exactly parliament. Why? Because in this parliament, it is not that the people's representative will come, but all the dukes will come and sit, right? In this parliament, where all the dukes will sit, so the king of Austria will always become chairperson or chairman. That means whenever all the German kings have to make any collective decision, the chairperson will always be Austria. So Austria will be in the driver's seat in the German affairs. This one thing you have to keep in mind. Austria otherwise is a separate country, but it always had a very important role to play in Germany. Now, this is one of the problems for the Prussians, who otherwise are Germans, and among Germans, they are the biggest state, but they are never given any priority over Austria. So Prussians are not very happy with what is happening, and they have some problem against Austria. Now, this is background that there was Germany divided into many parts, Austria interfering in German affairs, Prussia not liking it. Then Napoleon came and he now conquered most of German states because he defeated Austria and he defeated Prussia as well. So he brought the German states under his control. With this, when Napoleon came, obviously, as it happened in Italy, the nationalism in Germany now started to rise. With the rise of nationalism in Germany, now Napoleon obviously will try to scuttle it or to suppress it. When Napoleon will try to suppress the German nationalists, it will start to become more stronger a force for the Germans, right? With this, German nationalism now become a very strong force in European continent. Then Napoleon is defeated. After defeat of Napoleon, Vienna Congress was called. Vienna Congress once again divided the German territories as it was before Napoleon. But as Vienna Congress in case of Italy made Piedmont Sardinia strong, in case of Germany, it made Prussia the stronger one. As it was Piedmont Sardinia for Italy that will bring national unification, so is the case with Prussia. It will bring national unification, right? So same story. Before Napoleon, Italy was divided. Now Germany is divided. Before Napoleon, when Napoleon comes, he unified Italy and there was rise of nationalism. Similarly, when Napoleon came, he unified Germany. There was rise of nationalism. Then Vienna Congress, it divided Italy once again, but made Piedmont Sardinia strong. So that will lead to unification. Similarly, Vienna Congress made Prussia strong and it will lead to unification. Now, next is 1830 and 1848 revolutions. Similar to the ideas in Italy, Italians tried to carry out their unification during these times, but they were not very successful. Similarly, Germans tried during these two times, during the European revolutions of 1830 and 1848, and again they were not very successful. And as it happened after this, the king of Piedmont Sardinia changed and he brought a new prime minister, that is Cavour. Similarly, as Prussia could not do much, they brought a new prime minister in the name of Bismarck, and now Bismarck will lay the foundations for German unification. So the background is more or less same. Introduction is emergence of unified German empire in 1870 under leadership of O.V. Bismarck, Otto von Bismarck, was one of the most significant developments in history of Europe. Now, why we are saying that it is one of the biggest and most important or significant development in Europe? In 1870, when Germany will become a unified country, now this Germany will aspire for industrial revolution, and very soon it will become an industrial power. Then this Germany will demand its colonial share, that we also need colonial possessions. Then there will be a colonial war, which will lead to World War I. And when World War I will happen, Germany will be defeated. Now to revenge the German defeat, Hitler will come, and that will lead us to World War II. That means once Germany is unified, in next good 50-60 years, there were two world wars because of Germany. That is why German unification is one of the most significant developments in the history of Europe. I hope this is clear, that why we believe that it is something very, very important. Outcome of a long process of constant struggle. It is not that Germany is unified in a day or two. Obviously, yes, it took them again the same time from 1790s to 1870s. So 50-60 years of long struggle, as it was in case of Italy's. So picture of Germany in beginning of 19th century, that means 1805, before Napoleon comes here. So Germany was a part of Holy Roman Empire, right? Because the Pope was considered to be an authority here. There was one Prussia and one Austria. That was two big states among 300 smaller states in the German territory. So there are almost 300 smaller states. Among these, there are two big, Prussia and Austria. Austrian domination in Germany maintained through institution of Frankfurt Parliament, something that I just explained, that whenever the dukes, the kings of Germany will meet, the building is, or the idea is Frankfurt Parliament in the city of Frankfurt, which is in Germany, but it will always be given the chairpersonship will be given to this person from Austria, right? Austrian domination in Germany maintained through institution of Frankfurt Parliament. Representatives of all German states participated under leadership of Austrian king. So in German affairs, Austria is holding the driver's seat. Now next is Napoleon and Germany. So similar to that, Napoleon fought Austrian and this must be Prussia in Battle of Austerlitz and imposed Peace of Pressburg on Austria. Through this Peace of Pressburg, he forced Austria to now move away from German affairs so that Napoleon can have hold over Germany's. With this, Holy Roman Empire, it was dissolved, right? Because Italy is defeated, Pope is defeated, the Holy Roman Empire is defeated. So Holy Roman Empire dissolved and 300 German states amalgamated. उनको इकट्ठा जोड़ दिया गया to create Rhine Confederation of 39 states, where earlier there were 300 states. Napoleon brought so many states together that now there are only 39 states in German territories. So you have brought them so close to each other. This is more like half of the unification done already. You have brought the idea of unification to its almost conclusion here. Napoleon now recognized as savior of the Rhine Confederation. This Rhine Confederation, he's savior because he has made it. So people of Germany thought, wow, he's helping us, as people of Italy initially thought that he's helping us. Then Napoleon introduced number of reforms in accordance with ideals of French Revolution. Same, liberty, equality, fraternity granted, and policy of free trade adopted. So initially Germans will also appreciate. However, restrictions on movement of goods and services removed. regressive institutions like guild wiped out, feudal institutions and privileges destroyed, and means of communication developed for rapid economic development. So whatsoever Napoleon did in Italy, he exactly did the same in Germany. With Germany started to grow economically, as well as the feeling of nationalism started to thrive among the German people. So we have to say thanks to Napoleon for two unifications, German as well as Italian. Now, these reforms awakened German masses as they awakened Italians. Now Germans are awakened, and Germans gradually understood the imperialistic character of Napoleonic regime, that he is not giving us anything worthwhile. It is only a sham kind of a reform. Ultimate aim is to exploit the German resources for development of French Empire. So this triggered sense of nationalism among the masses. Now what happened? Napoleon, an imperialistic ruler, means he want to increase his empire, the French Empire or Napoleonic Empire. Reforms directed at fulfillment of French national interest. He is not interested, he is more interested to make France grow stronger, but unconsciously his works prepare circumstances responsible for political unification of Germany. Uska intent kya hai? What was his intent? Intent of Napoleon was to make France a strong state, but unconsciously he helped lay the foundations for political unification of Germany. And what he did, amalgamation of 300 states into 39 states. To bring 300 states together is very difficult. To bring 39 together is always an easier task. Then the spirit of nationalism is triggered among the Germans. Now look at this statement and you have to tell me yourself that what you mean by it. It is one of the ironies of history that Napoleon was the creator of modern Germany. All right, now let me give you answer to this. Why it is one of the ironies of history that Napoleon was the creator of modern Germany? See, unconsciously, Napoleon helped in the creation of Germany, right? A French leader ended up helping the cause of German unification. And when Germany is to be finally created, Germany will defeat France, right? Germany will defeat France, and then Germany will become a unified Germany. Bismarck's policy will be to destroy France. Then from 1870 to 1912, this is the time, almost now this is 40 years. In these 40 years, France was totally isolated in Europe. France has no friend because of German policies. Then this Germany, it attacked France and World War I started, and France had to bear a lot of cost. Then somehow France survived and France won the war with British and American help. Then Hitler came in Germany, he again attacked France. World War II started. Isn't it an irony of history that Napoleon, a leader of France, helped create the circumstances for German unification, and then unified Germany destroyed France number of times? Now that is what we mean by this statement, that it is irony of things. So then we talk about Vienna Congress and Germany. So Vienna Order of 1815 restored pre-Napoleonic scenario, as it tried in the case of Italy's as well. But how is it possible now to restore the 300 states to the original? So 300 states could not be restored back, and because nobody was aware of their actual number and boundaries, everyone was claiming something new. Now this area belongs to me, that area belongs to me. So Vienna Congress unconsciously approved first phase of German unification because it could not restore back all the states to the original position. So Vienna Congress also helped the rise of German unification. Now we will talk about early efforts or larger background of German unification, that how initially the things started working, and then we will come to immediate causes. So when we talk about the early movement, there is a very important thing called role of Burschenschaft. Now what is this? It was students' organization established in 1815 to liberate Germany from domination of Metternich, obviously Austrian prince, right? So the students of Germany, they made Burschenschaft a German student union that wanted to liberate Germany from the control of Austria. This body organized massive demonstration at Würzburg in 1817, suppressed by Metternich through Karlsbad decrees. Karlsbad is a place, decrees, you understand now, they are orders. So he issued Karlbert's order, with which this Burschenschaft was suppressed, right? But the students have started the process of resisting the foreign interference in German affairs. The student union has given people the lead that you have to fight for your unification, as it was in case of Italy, the not young Italy, before that Carbonari. So was the case of this Burschenschaft. Now, there are some philosophers in Germany who paved way for rise of the idea of nationalism. When we talk about these philosophers, these historians, role of German philosophers and historians, German philosophers of 19th century prepared strong cultural platform for political unification of Germany. They highlighted the common ideas in German civilization. Important names are Herder, Hardenberg, Hegel, Fichte, right? They are four main writers. In case you cannot remember the four names, never forget the name Hegel. He is one of the most important among all, right? So even if you put this name only, Hegel, the job is well done. They highlighted common elements among diverse German cultures. They proved that we are one people, highlights the glory of German language, and emphasize on common identity of German people. And in this way, cultural unity was forged by these philosophers. They made the people of Germany realize that we are one, we have common language, common culture, and we should have political unity, and Germany should be a great country. Then, when we talk about historians, historians reinterpreted past to instill a sense of pride among the masses, and the political achievements of Frederick the Great was put among the masses, that long back we had a great king in Germany who created such a huge German empire. Everybody was trembling at his feet, and he was a great king. We Germans deserve something like this only. Now we have to have a strong nation. So historians brought back the past, highlighted the glorious past of Germany, and then encouraged the people to aspire for a better future through political unification. And the cultural foundations laid by German philosophers and historians significantly ease the task of Bismarck in the future. So we can say political unification of Germany was placed on a solid cultural base, right? They first created a solid cultural base, that we have common language, common culture, we have very, very glorious past. Now you make one politically unified Germany on it. This is base and superstructure, right? Remember, we talked about Zollverein when we were talking about Industrial Revolution. I told you we will discuss it in detail. So what is this Zollverein? It was a customs union, that we will not charge custom duties from each other. Customs union established in 1819 by lesser German states and Prussia. Now, what I mean by lesser German states and Prussia, when I talk about lesser German states, this is Germany, this is Austria, and Austria has some influence on South German states. If I take Austria out of this picture, right? So obviously these South German states will not be interested. The remaining entire area of North Germany, Central Germany, this is called lesser German states, right? Something which is without Austria will be lesser German states. So this custom union was signed between lesser German states and Prussia. That means all the northern states of Germany, they signed a custom union with Prussia, that Prussia and they will have trade without any duties. Then in 1834, all German states except Austria joined Zollverein, because the states of South Germany, they also realized that by doing trade in this way, by not charging duties, we also stand to benefit. So entire Germany, leaving only Austria outside, has now signed Zollverein. You have to understand one thing, by this way, economic unification has been achieved. First, cultural unification, now economic unification. The third step will be political unification, right? So Zollverein is a custom union, duty-free trade agreement kind of thing, as it is like NAFTA, SAFTA, or something like EU. So it is created. Now, you know what is the big problem here for Austria? Austria is a very, very big fool at this point of time. They said because Prussia has taken the initiative to create Zollverein, and Prussia is not that big a state as Austria is. Now, how can we join Prussia's initiative? So only out of ego, Austria did not join this economic union. If they would not have this ego and they had joined this Zollverein, they could have again become the drivers in it because they were the biggest power at that time. So only and only out of ego, Austria did not join. Why? Because it was initiated by Prussia. And once Prussia became the main factor for the economic consolidation, it will become the main factor for political consolidation too. So Austria, only because of ego, was left out. Now, Zollverein resulted in emergence of common markets leading to rapid industrialization, with which means of communication, not common communication like road and railway lines emerged, and gradual emergence of modern institutions, which means modern industries as well, right? So now Germany is getting modernized, be it industries, railways, and road network. So Zollverein created that scope, which is not just economic, it also started integrating different areas by creating roads and railways. Now people will frequently travel, meet, trade, talk, discuss, and remember the past, which has been highlighted by the historians. This is bringing that consolidation for Germany. All right. Now, the economic progress greatly strengthened the German nationalism. With this resources available, Prussia raised now a large army. With this economic development, Prussia raised a large army and fought wars of German unification. And Bismarck used means of communication. This common is communication. I hope you will remember this. Means of communication to mobilize troops during wars and battles to defeat enemies swiftly. So, through why Austria did not join? Out of ego. So, Bismarck has used economic unification to make economic development of Prussia. And once Prussia became economically strong, they became militarily strong. And then they created such a strong communication network that their troops can swiftly move and fight wars. So success of Zollverein brought lesser German together, right? Now, emergence of strong class of German capitalists, because with Zollverein came industrial revolution in Germany. With this strong industrial revolution, now there is a strong German capitalist class. Now the German capitalist will always want a strong favor German unification. Why they want German unification? What they realize is that if Germany like is always divided like as we are, so these small German states can never compete against a great power of Britain. So if we bring German unification, this strong Germany can defeat Britain, and then Germany can become the global economic leader as it was Britain at that time. So German capitalists strongly favoring German unification so that Germany strong then can defeat Britain and take over the global trade from it. German captures capitalist. I'm not sorry, this is not capture, capitalist. German capitalists were aware of the fact that only a strong, powerful German empire could protect them from British goods. That means British competition. If Britain remains powerful, it will continue to create the control the entire global trade. So German capitalists want a strong German state. Moreover, they were looking for colonial possessions expansion so that they can get cheap raw material and markets for their finished goods, and only powerful German empire could carve colonies in face of stiff competition from Britain and France. So if Germany is now to become a great power, it need to acquire overseas colonial possessions. How can you get when Britain and France are already controlling it? So let's first become militarily very strong, politically very strong, then we can defeat Britain and France, and then only Germany can get its rightful share of colonial world. So success of Bismarckian policy of blood and iron depended to a large extent on forces of coal and iron economic factors. Now this line I will explain. Write it down because it is not there in slide. It's a linking line. So write it down. It is popularly said that Bismarck unified Germany by using his popular blood and iron policy. Blood and iron policy. Now, what is blood and iron policy? Blood is like bloodshed, you kill people. Iron is you make strong weapons to win the wars in which you kill people. So Napoleon, I'm so sorry, Bismarck ही बोला था ना मैंने. Bismarck used blood and iron policy. He made the army very strong with great weapons with which they could defeat all the problems, like all the enemies, and then German unification can be achieved. Blood and iron policy. But historians say that this blood and iron was basically only a mean. The end was something else. The end was coal and iron. What it means, in the areas where coal and iron is available, that can help in the industrial revolution. Bismarck wanted to control that entire area where the resources are in German territories. So he wanted to bring all the resources under his control. So the blood and iron was to get coal and iron. And coal and iron is economic. This is military policy. So military policy was made to accomplish the economic policy. He wanted to get control over resources of the entire region. That is why he was fighting war for German unification. So economic progress due to Zollverein, German nationalists would have remained a much weaker force. If there would have been no Zollverein, if there would have been no economic progress, German nationalism would have never been as strong as it would have been now. Revolution of 1848 and German unification. This is very important time. I will first tell you the story. I will try to picturize the story so that you understand. When in 1848 Metternich ran away, we remember now that he ran away. Austria is now on the back foot. All German speaking territories, those 300 states, almost 300 states, they met at the Frankfurt Parliament and they said, let's write a new constitution for German states. And together all the kings were ready to offer the United Kingdom of Germany to the King of Prussia. And the King of Prussia was so very happy that day, wow, everybody is voluntarily coming and offering that I can be their king. So he was very happy. That day Bismarck was a junior minister. He was not prime minister. He was one of the ministers. And he was standing with king in that meeting in Frankfurt Assembly. Now all the German dukes, they said, sir, now that Metternich has ran away, the Vienna order has collapsed. So we request the King of Prussia to take over the command of all German states. And the moment he was about to stand up to take the honor, Bismarck put some hand on his shoulder. He said, no, say no. And the king said, why? I'm getting this great opportunity. I had been waiting for this. He said, believe me, say no. I will explain later. And the king said no in 1848. Prussian king said no when everybody was ready to offer the crown to him. And he was not very happy though, but then he came out and asked Bismarck, can you please explain why you asked me to say no? So Bismarck said, sir, if today voluntarily and democratically they can offer you the crown, tomorrow they can ask it back. If you create Germany like this by discussing and in a democratic manner, it will not be a long-lasting unification. Now that all the kings have expressed the desire, they want to be a part of us, they want to be ruled by us, let's create through war now. We will fight few wars, we will defeat few people, we will prove that why we are superior and why people want to follow us, and then that unification will prove to be a long-lasting unification. So I never want a democratic unification for Germany. मैं बोला किंग आंखों में पानी आ गया होगा, भाई तू कितना समझदार है यार, कितना लंबा सोचता है यार, तू गले लग क्यों भाई, तू खड़ा क्यों ऐसे, तू प्राइम मिनिस्टर आज से मेरा. वहीं से टर्निंग पॉइंट आ गया. क्लियर? कितना ही समझदार इंसान है ना. फिर ये पता है क्या बोलता है बाद में, जब जर्मन यूनिफिकेशन होगी ना 1870 में, ये उस दिन पार्लियामेंट में खड़ा होकर पता है क्या बोलेगा फ्रैंकफर्ट पार्लियामेंट में? हिज स्पीच विल बी द ग्रेट क्वेश्चंस ऑफ द डे. विल जर्मनी बी यूनिफाइड और नॉट? द ग्रेट क्वेश्चंस ऑफ डे are not resolved by speeches. That was the mistake of 1848. उस दिन तुम बातें करते जर्मनी बना देते हैं, बातें थोड़ा बनता जर्मनी. These are resolved by blood and iron. ये इसकी सबसे पॉपुलर स्पीच बन गई। भाई खून बहता है, लड़ाइयां होती हैं, लोग मरते हैं, फिर कोई एक पावर का राइज होता है, एंड देन जर्मनी बिकम्स व्हाट वी आर टुडे। ऑलराइट, सो रेवोल्यूशन ऑफ 1848 and German unification, downfall of Metternich in March 1848 now emboldened the German nationalists to carry out political unification of German using liberal parliamentary methods कि चलो democratically let's make Germany a strong state. Special session of Frankfurt Parliament was summoned, a new constitution to be drafted, and crown of United Germany to be given to Prussian King Frederick William IV. Frederick William IV. Now, the constitution was successfully drafted. Constitution was drafted, but William IV, Frederick William IV, he refused to take crown because crown offered by liberals below his prestige, little respect for liberal ideas. आज दे दोगे कल मांग लोगे. This is what Bismarck taught him. Frederick IV did not want to antagonize Austria as well at that time because Austria still is very strong. Moreover, deep respect for Pope. This is Holy Roman Empire, na? So why I should be going against them? And fear of shattering the Holy Roman Empire was one of the factors in mind of the king. That why should I do this? Now Bismarck will give him the solution to every problem. Bismarck was the Prussian representative. Bismarck was Prussian representative in Frankfurt Parliament and advised the king not to accept crown offered by liberals. Bismarck wanted Germany to be unified through military methods. We will fight, we will prove we are superior, and then we will create Germany. Then refusal dashed hopes of German nationalists, and Germany remained politically fragmented. Right? They were very disappointed with this. Now, German nationalists learned an important lesson that German unification is possible only through military methods, as liberalism is too weak to bring unification. And rise of Bismarck result of the disenchantment of nationalism with liberal ideas. They said now liberalism can't bring, let's bring Bismarck, make him the prime minister. Through his strong military methods, he will ensure unification of Germany for us. Now this is Mr. Bismarck. शक्ल से देखो कितना अच्छा लग रहा है ना, ये शक्ल भी गुस्सा है इसकी. कौन था वो बोल रहा है, वो कौन था, वो रसोड़े में कौन था, वो राशि थी. ये कह रहा है बिस्मार्क था जिसने अकेले ने यूनिफिकेशन करा के दी. राइज ऑफ बिस्मार्क. Bismarck was appointed Prussian chancellor by King William I in 1862. आ गया नया राजा, उसने आगे बिस्मार्क को प्राइम मिनिस्टर बना दिया. In 1858 Frederick William lost his sanity. पागल हो गया बूढ़ा, इसका मतलब ये है. Sanity, sane, right? Insanity. He lost his sanity. Responsible for looking after the state affairs fell into hands of his younger brother William I, who now becomes the king, young one. William I was a strong nationalist, wanted to carry out German unification, but liberal dominated Prussian parliament did not approve his budget for military reforms. Now, when parliament did not pass the budget, you know what Bismarck proposed him? I give you an example. If you know Indian polity, right? We know that we have a parliament and parliament has to pass the budget. There are two houses in parliament. One is Lok Sabha, other is Rajya Sabha. Lok Sabha is elected by people. Rajya Sabha has indirectly elected members. So we give more powers to Lok Sabha to pass the budget. When Lok Sabha passes, it starts the budget, it passes the budget, then it is sent to Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha is given only and only 14 days. If they pass the budget within 14 days, great. Otherwise, as it has been passed by Lok Sabha, the budget is passed. That means Rajya Sabha has no right in the case of budget. Same was the case in Germany at that time, that lower house, popular house will pass the budget, upper house will have no rights. Now the lower house rejected the budget. They said we are not going to pass this budget. Bismarck got his pass from Rajya Sabha. उसने लोकसभा ही बंद कर दी. कहता मुझे कराना नहीं सेशन, राज्य सभा बजट पास करेगी. So he played with every democratic institution. 1861, William I king after death of Frederick. Bismarck had a very strong reputation for his ruthless approach. He can do anything, any damage. So he said, okay, bring him on. He will be my prime minister. Now Bismarck started the policy of blood and iron. Here, blood is violence, iron is strength, and it emphasizes on ruthless support of opponents. Ruthless crushing of opponents, right? Not support, but crushing of your opponents. Completely destroy them. Efficacy of militarism. Blood and Iron says use of army is efficacious. That means it is very useful. If you use army, it will be useful for your unification. Effectiveness of building consensus, not trusted. It is no need that first we talk to everyone. Everyone agrees on the same point that this is the method through which we should do. He said there is no use of building consensus. There is no need for everyone to agree. If I think that it is done, it must be done. The way I think is good, it must be done in that way. Important issues of age, not resolved by majority of votes. You cannot do it democratically. And speeches in parliament, what we have to do, we have to adopt blood and iron policy. That is what I explained now. Now, strong and effective action regarding to counter challenges. He is ready to take strong action to defeat his enemies. Bismarckian policy of blood and iron manifested is in internal as well as external policies. Within Germany, he will fight against his enemies. Outside Germany, he will fight with Austria, France, and everyone and defeat everyone to create Germany. Bismarck bypassed liberal dominated lower house and got his budget approved from upper house. लोकसभा की जगह राज्यसभा से बजट पास करवा दिया. Foreign policy, safeguard Prussian interest, no worry about ethics and moralities. You can be unethical in international relations. There is no need to follow the rule book. Like, think about something that we say we will not cross the line of control or line of actual control. Neither will go to China nor will go inside Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and we are very ethical, and they keep doing it. So if there is a need for your national interest, cross the line, do the surgical strike and come back. Why it is unethical? If they are dastardly attacking you, you must take the revenge, and there is no shame in it. Now that's what Bismarck teaches us. Clear? There are no ethics in international relations, and remember, this is very true. Now, Bismarck's approach towards German unification. Direct question hai, what was Bismarck's approach towards German unification? Bismarck was a strong German nationalist, inspired by a vision of powerful German empire, but wanted only a specific type of unification. This I will dictate you outside the slides. Bismarck, a Prussian first and German later. He is first a Prussian, then a German. Now, what it means, I have to tell you. Objected to carry out Prussianization of Germany. Now, what it means? This is Germany, this is Austria. Within Germany, there is Prussia, right? And this is Germany. There could have been one way of unification of Germany, that let Austria be the leader and this entire region be called Germany, right? This could have been done. This is called Greater German solution. Greater German solution. It would have been done in a way that Germany and Austria become one country. Prussia remains subordinate to Austria in that case, and this becomes a great Germany. Bismarck is a Prussian first, and then he's a German. So he said, no, I will not let Austria come in Germany again. I will go for lesser German solution. My aim is not German unification. My aim is Prussianization of Germany. Prussia should have influence over German territory, and Austria should be out of this. So he made the unification in a specific way that it was only this part of Germany and not Austria. That is why it is called lesser German solution. Now write a statement. Bismarck was the only obstacle. Bismarck was the only obstacle in the path of German unification. Bismarck was the only obstacle in the path of German unification. Discuss. Now, do you understand this statement? if this question would have been in your exam without this discussion, how would you have tackled that question? Because he is taught in books and in classes as the hero of German unification. And UPSC asked a question, he was the greatest obstacle in the path of German unification. Now that means had Bismarck not been there, anyone else going for unification effort, they would have brought Austria within Germany. That would have completed the idea of German unification. But Bismarck, being a Prussian first and a German later, he settled for lesser German solution, did not let Austria become part of Germany. Therefore, he never let the complete unification of Germany. And you know, when Hitler will come after World War I, he will go for Anschluss. We will write about it. And Anschluss is bringing Austria within Germany. Because logically, Austria should be part of Germany. This is what the Germans believed. So he wanted lesser German states to be merged into Prussia and Prussian dominance only. Austria should not get any role in this. One, then he wanted German unification to be imposed on German states, no opportunity to leave later. So that is why his special unification means, one, it means lesser, two, it's mean militarily strong German unification through blood and iron. So he aims at not democratic unification, but militarily unification, and a lesser unification, not a greater unification. That is typical desire of Bismarck. It should be unification from above, not below. Now, when I say from above and not below, if one player asks many players, if one player asks many players to do something, it is from above, right? A leader is saying to others, do this. So it is a direction coming from above to bottom and everyone agreeing. If people, many people, they ask someone to do it, right? It is from below. So had it been when all Germans offered the crown and Prussia took it over, then it would have been from below. But now Bismarck said, we will impose it from above. So it is unification from above. I hope this is also clear. Unification from above and not below. So this is third type of unification. What different type of unification he wanted? Lesser unification, militarily strong unification, and unification from above and not below. So German unification must be achieved through military methods, so that it must be long-lasting unification. People should never dare to leave Germany once it is made. He himself believed that Germany is too small for both Prussia and Austria to come together, so Austria must leave. I don't want Austria to interfere in German affairs, and Germany is not that big a country that you can have two big players together, right? So Germany, if has to be unified under Prussia, Austria has to leave. Austria, a German state, and in reality, a German unification incomplete without Austria. So what we can say, Bismarck was greatest obstacle in way of German unification, and German unification was one thing he was determined to prevent. He never wanted German unification. What he wanted? Prussianization of Germany. So Bismarck wanted German unification in such a way that Austria and France lose their prestige. Bismarck did not fight his wars for German unification, but in reality, he used German unification to fight his wars. He was fighting for Prussia, but he made people believe that it is German unification. So he was only and only a Prussian who Prussianized Germany's and did not go for German unification. Now we are going to talk about phases of German unification. Now there are so many states in Germany, so we'll understand that how these were brought together by Bismarck. So integration of Schleswig and Lauenburg. ये अभी कहां पर है, मैप आएगा आगे and we will locate them. ठीक है? These are two territories, island type, Schleswig and Lauenburg. So the two duchies of Schleswig and Lauenburg located in international waters between Germany and France. Not today, but at that time, right? German population lived in these two territories, but these were placed under nominal control of Denmark by Vienna Congress. एक तो वेना वालों ने गन डाला हुआ था. German speaking territories have been given to Denmark. In November 1863, King of Denmark, Christian IX, tried to annex them. Now Denmark is planning to take them over because it has been placed under their nominal control. He thought, let me control and enjoy the territory. His claims were opposed by Duke of Austenburg. another territory of German speaking near Schleswig and Lauenburg. He said, how can you take over? Next, it can be my turn. So he informed Bismarck that we are German speaking people. How can Denmark control us? Bismarck interested because of strategic value. These are islands. You can use them as your naval bases. Why to let them go to Denmark or to anybody else? Their integration with Prussia could strengthen Prussian naval force significantly. You will develop your naval bases here, right? So why to let them go? Now Bismarck played very smart. Bismarck persuaded Austrian king for joint front to liberate German duchies from Danish control. What he told, Bismarck told the Austrian king, see, these are German speaking territories. How can they be with anyone else and not with you or me? Let's fight together, control them, and we will enjoy their territories. 1864, Prussia and Austria attacked Denmark. It was such a swift attack by two strong powers against a small Denmark. They captured the duchies of Schleswig, Lauenburg, and Holstein. Now they captured three islands, Schleswig, Lauenburg, and Holstein. Then Convention of Gastein, a meeting was called. Schleswig, Prussia, and Holstein, Austria. The territories are divided. Schleswig is given to Prussia, Holstein is given to Austria. When it comes the turn of Lauenburg, it was purchased by Bismarck from Austria. He purchased it. That, okay, I pay you, give it to me. Now, Bismarck applied his vision and diplomatic skills. Issue of Holstein to be used to fight a war against Austria in future. Holstein has been given to Austria, but the other two territories are with now Prussia. Because they are with Prussia, Bismarck asked these two people, ask the people of Holstein to revolt against Austria and demand that we also want to join Prussia. So what happened is, there are three islands. One is given to Austria, one is given to Prussia, one Prussia purchased, right? Now, Bismarck asked these two people to instigate the people here in Holstein that what are you doing with Austria? Come to Prussia, we all are Germans. Because he instigated the people of Holstein and Austria came to know that this is Bismarck who is doing it. So there is going to be a war. So Bismarck applied his vision and diplomatic skills, issue of Holstein to be used to fight a war against Austrian future. Schleswig located away from Prussia, Holstein could be annexed anytime because it is closer. That's why he kept Holstein as the bone of contention, because it was closer, he could manage it properly. He was so clever. Now what happened next is creation of Northern German Confederation of 21 states. To instigate Austria for attacking Prussia, Austria must attack Prussia. Prussia is not to be blamed for this. Bismarck aroused a popular revolt against Austria rule in Holstein. He provoked it. People of Holstein revolted against Austria. Austria felt cheated and attacked Prussia. Bismarck already used his diplomatic skill to isolate Austria by supporting Russia in suppressing Polish revolt. If this is German territory, this is Russia. So that Russia must not come to the help of Austria, Bismarck helped Russia suppress the Polish revolt. When the people of Poland was given to Russia by Congress of Vienna, Bismarck sent his army to crush Polish revolt. Russia and Bismarck, they became friends. Now, because they are friends, when Bismarck will fight against Austria, Russia will remain neutral. So, in suppressing Polish revolt, even against public opinion in 1863 to secure Russian friendship. So, Bismarck is so clever, he made Russia a friend by crushing Polish revolt, so that when Bismarck fights against Austria, Russia must not intervene. Bismarck met Napoleon III, the King of France, and gave him indication of territorial gains, that if you remain neutral during Austro-Prussian war, France must remain neutral when Austria and Prussia will fight. Here is France. So Russia is friend, France is made neutral by offering territory. I will give you some territory, let me just fight with Austria. So King of France said, okay, I will not come. Then the Battle of Sadova happened between Austria and Prussia. In this Battle of Sadova, Bismarck defeated Austria in July 1866 and created North German Confederation of 21 states. Now what it means is, I will explain it once again through a map. This is German speaking territory. This is Prussia. This is Austria. Here we have Russia. Here we have France. Now, Bismarck from Prussia, Germany has not yet been unified. On South German states, Austria had its influence yet. Now, Bismarck plans a war against Austria. So that Russia must not help Austria, Bismarck first helped Russia crush Polish revolt. So Russia became friends with Prussia. Then Bismarck promised some territory to France that you must not also come. Now it is that only Prussia and Austria will fight. Austria has dominance in South Germany. So all the South German states will support Austria. Bismarck cleverly asked the other North German states, will you not fight with a North German player when the South German states are fighting with Austria? Don't you have any sense of unity with us now? All these states, 20 states, they said, yes, we are ready. In this way, 21 states were made into a German confederation. They joined him and then they defeated Austria along with South German states. Now that Austria is defeated, now happens what? On August the 3rd, 1866, Treaty of Prague was signed. Czechoslovakia region, Treaty of Prague was signed. Austria to remain out of German affairs. Today, Austria said, all right, from now I will not even interfere in South German states. They are independent from my control. Bismarck's job is done. Austria, without German unification, without Austria is now possible. This is what he wanted. So he played such a smart game. First, he made Austria a friend for the islands, which were with Denmark. Then with his help, with the help of Austria, he got the islands. Then he provoked Austria to attack Prussia. When Austria was provoked, he got all the North German states with him and has already ensured friendship with Russia and neutrality of France. Clear? With this now what happens? Bismarck did not impose any harsh treaty on Austria. Bismarck said, Austria, we had been friends for so long. We are like brothers, right? So I'm not going to dethrone the king in Austria. Your king will continue to be king. We are friends. To ensure its neutrality during Franco-Prussian war in future, because he knew that I have to fight war with France in some time to take this territory of France. Let keep Austria friend and neutral. इसको हरा के भी इसको दोस्त बना गया. That is what diplomacy of Bismarck is all about. Okay, so Austria is defeated. Now what he will do next? Integration of South German states. The South German states are free from the control of Austria, but they have not yet joined Prussia. How they are to be integrated? South German states close to France and both were Catholics. This is one challenge. They are nearby, geographically nearby to France and are Catholic. Bismarck did not want to impose unification immediately. He said, let's wait for the right time. Now, French King Napoleon III, he wrote a letter to Bismarck and demanded territories over River Rhine for his neutrality. जो उसने कहा था ना, Bismarck promised that I will give you territories. Bismarck rejected. He said, which territory are you talking about? I never promised. Show me any letter if you have. It was a verbal promise and Bismarck backed out. And he's the one who says there are no ethics. And he proved it now that there are no ethics. I will now compel Russia to attack, France to attack Prussia so that all South German states should support me. They are German speaking. So he rejected the demand which he himself has once promised. Section of French nationalists believed that Prussia successful only because of French neutrality. Had France helped Austria, Prussia would have not been strong. So the French nationalists now started, scolding Napoleon III. You are a bloody fool, what you have done, and he's not even giving you territory. Immense pressure on Napoleon III. Big nations emerging in French neighborhood, Italy and Germany, and France is now on the back foot. So king has to do something. Napoleon III tried to raise his prestige by buying Luxembourg. वो बेचारा अपने पैसे खर्च करके लग्जमबर्ग खरीदने जा रहा है from Holland. Prevented by Bismarck. Bismarck ने हॉलैंड को मैसेज भेज दिया, if you will sell Luxembourg to France, I will attack you. अब वो बेचारा फ्रांस जो है राजा, he cannot even buy territory. That's what I'm explaining, Anjali Kumari. If you listen to all this story, you will understand it. Right? Now, King of France is so frustrated, He has not got the territory. His people are after his life. He tried to save his position by trying to spend his own money to buy Luxembourg, and Bismarck is not even letting this happen. Conference of Powers in London blocked this movement. Bismarck prevailed here. He said, if now Holland will give Luxembourg to France, I will declare more wars in Europe. So every other country said, no, no, don't go for this deal. Now, King of France is very frustrated. His position is at the lowest ebb. In 1868, now this is very interesting. 1868, Spanish Queen Isabella II was dethroned. स्पेन की रानी को गद्दी से उतारा है. Remember, in Spain, the kings of France have their relations from times. Even Napoleon put his brother Joseph there. So if the queen in Spain is dethroned, who will be the next king? Who will decide? France, right? Extremely despotic and exploiting ruler. That is why she was dethroned. There was no immediate claimant for the throne. Who should take over the powers? Spanish decided to offer crown to Prince Leopold of Hohenzollern dynasty of Prussia. Oh God. France has control over Spain. And today Bismarck played another game. People are saying we want the Prussians to rule over us. The king of France is like, भाई जीने देगा कि नहीं जीने देगा? स्पेन में तू घुस रहा है, मेरे को टेरिटरी दे नहीं रहा, लग्जमबर्ग लेने नहीं दे रहा, क्यों इतनी बेइज्जती करा रहा है? Strongly condemned by Napoleon III. How can you now interfere in Spain? That is my territory. Napoleon demanded written apology कि ये माफी मांग कि तूने स्पेन में इंटरफेयर क्यों किया. He sent a letter and guarantee of no future further claims for Spanish crown by Prussians. Now, when the King of France wrote this letter and demanded apology, French ambassador met Prussian King William I at Ems. Ems is a place. So France का एक ambassador चिट्ठी लेके आ गया. An ambassador of France brought this letter by the King of France and met the King of Prussia, William I. William I obviously will talk to his prime minister. So prime minister is Bismarck. William I consulted Bismarck and telegram sent to him in Berlin. So king got a letter from King of Prussia, got a letter of King of France. He looked at the letter and said, okay, he has some problem with by the way the Bismarckian policy is being followed. So he said, okay, Bismarck, have a look at this letter and tell me what is the reply. Ems Telegraph published in newspaper after changing language. Bismarck ने फ्रांस के राजा की लेटर, the letter written by the King of France, Bismarck ने उसको forge कर दिया. Added some insulting words in the letter as if King of France is now scolding the King of Prussia. है ना, गालियां लिख दी बीच में, changing the language a bit to indicate that French ambassador humiliated by Prussian king. और साथ में इसने ये भी कह दिया कि हमारे राजा ने उसको गालियां निकाल के भगा दिया है. राइट? What happened next? Massive uprising in France. फ्रांस की जनता राजा को तू पागल है, बेइज्जती कराई जा रहा अपनी, ना तेरे को टेरिटरी मिली, neither you got territory nor you got any support, and now they have even humiliated our ambassador. क्या चल रहा है, ये बदतमीजी क्या हो रही है? Now France is hell bent to fight a war. Because of this war, France will attack and France will be defeated. German unification completed. Now this is how Bismarck brought German unification. Now we have similarities and differences between Italian and German unification that you were asking me. Let us look at this. Similarities. Role of Napoleon in both German-Italian unification. Some common hurdles in both. The Vienna Order of 1815 created hurdle for Italy as well as for Germany. Presence of Austria both in South German states and North Italian states. Influence of France in both. Then geographical division of Germany and Austria, and influence of Pope because of Holy Roman Empire. So these are common hurdles. Then role of intellectuals and philosophers both in Italy and Germany. More important in Italy, and higher level of awakening was there in Italy as compared to what it was in Germany. Then both commenced simultaneously after 1815. Then role of one state was important: Piedmont, Sardinia, Italy; Prussia in Germany. Important role of ministers or prime minister: Cavour and Bismarck. Common things: use of wars and battles and simultaneous completion. 1870 both completely made. Now if we talk about differences, intellectual revolution preceded political unification in Italy, but not that strongly in Germany. More serious challenges in Italy because Piedmont, Sardinia was weak. They needed outside support, whereas Prussia was very strong itself, can do anything and everything itself. different approaches. Italy supreme to Cavour, Bismarck Prussia supreme, जो तुम बोल रहे थे. Then Italy less economically developed, whereas Germany politically unified, preceded by economic unification through Zollverein. So this is unification of Italy and Germany compared. Italy was a collective effort. Germany, Bismarck played a major role and most important role. In Italy, Garibaldi, Cavour, and Mazzini played role. Here it is only and only Cavour. Just a moment. Just keep your hand raised. Just a moment. Impact of Italian unification is negligible. Nothing much changed in Europe. In spite of political unification, serious internal conflicts and challenges, no effect of European geopolitical scenario. But German unification greatly relevant for Europe. Post 1870, once Germany is unified, course of European politics decided by Germans single-handedly. Bismarck will decide what will happen in Germany now, in Europe, right? Napoleon III surrendering to William I in September 1870, ending the Battle of Sedan. Now it is Germany that is the master of Europe. Write a statement. Statement is, at the Battle of Sedan, just a moment, Vaibhav, I'm coming back to you. At the Battle of Sedan, Europe lost a mistress. Europe lost a mistress and gained a master. Europe lost a mistress and gained a master. They said everyone thought that France is a very strong power. And this is very bad otherwise, what I'm going to tell you. But remember, this is not me, but the historians using these words. And here to in class, there is only one girl, so I'm safe. Online, there are many girls. So please understand, this is not my feeling. I'm a proud father of 2 young girls. All right. So they said, see, girls are always weak, feminine, weak. Boys are always strong. The men, the masculine, right? So they said, we thought that France is a very strong power or a player. But when Bismarck came, Germany showed its true colors. We realized that in Europe, we were always being fascinated by a weak feminine power like France. Europe lost its mistress and gained a powerful master like Bismarck. Germany became more powerful. Now that Bismarck has become the Chancellor of Germany, Iron Chancellor of Germany, the Prime Minister, the President Minister, so he will make one new foreign policy of Germany. This foreign policy has only and only one great agenda. Now, what is that great agenda? Let's first try this. This is Germany. This is Austria. This is Italy. This is France. This is Russia. And here we have Britain, right? Broad map of Europe. Now, Germany has become one great country under the leadership of Bismarck today. After defeating France very comprehensively, and France has been humiliated like anything in this last war. That is why we wrote, Europe lost a mistress and gained a master, right? Now that France has been so badly defeated, Bismarck thought and realized, because he's very far-sighted man, he realized that France would try to avenge this. Now, if France has to avenge this, France needs some friends in Europe. Alone, France now cannot defeat Germany, so France will need some friends. How about German foreign policy or Bismarck's foreign policy, BFP? It is going to be written at places in your slide. Bismarck's foreign policy. My aim is French isolation. France must not have any friend in Europe. If there is no friend of France, then France will never be able to take any revenge from Germany. 2, Bismarck said, see, I can assure you one thing. Whatever you may end up doing, France will definitely one day come back and fight a war. So you can always expect a war on your, this is Germany, this is my western frontier. So on the western front, you will always expect a war. Can I make sure that on the eastern front, there is not a simultaneous war? So we have to keep Russians our friends forever. That's very important now. Why? If India can make either of the two as best friends, in that case, If Pakistan attacks and China is our friend, we are relaxed that there is no fight here. We can keep all army on this side. And if Pakistan somehow becomes friend, then we are fearless that on Western front there is no war. We can fight China. But if one day both Pakistan and China attacks, then what? So is the position of Germany. If France and Russia become friend and attack, then who will save Germany? So Bismarck said, my foreign policy will aim at isolating France and making Russia my friend. If I can end up doing this, I will keep Italy and Austria as my friends. Now who can attack me? That is now what we are going to discuss. Clear? Bismarck, a successful administrator, great statesman, master diplomat, German chancellor, and this is no important event in Europe directed है. ये no नहीं है, इसका क्या है? Number of important events. Number of important events in Europe directed and controlled by him, either implicitly or explicitly. He is involved in everything that will happen in Europe from the times of German unification up to 90s, right? Bismarck's foreign policy was used to establish German dominance over European politics, and it was not much challenged. Nobody challenged it because Bismarck was very strong. What were the aims and objectives of Bismarck's foreign policy? If I talk about the aims, Bismarck, a strong German nationalist, used the Bismarck's foreign policy to accomplish German national interest. Now, what is German national interest? Germany must be the greatest economic power, industrial power, military power. Post-German unification, he said Germany is a satiated power. Satiated means satisfied power. That means Bismarck is telling the European players in Europe, this Germany today is satisfied. We need no more territory of France or Russia or Austria or Italy. Now nobody need to fear us. We are very happy what we have got, so that they must remain friends with Germany. We will not take your territory. That's a promise. This is what he told. Post-German unification, Germany a satiated power, satisfied state. No further territorial expansion in Europe. We will not fight wars. Trust us for this. Why he is saying this? Peace and stability required to guide Germany on path of economic progress. I do not want to fight so many wars constantly. How will I improve my economy otherwise? So let's not fight. Bismarck foreign policy is used for economic progress. Isolation of France, what I told. This is the keystone of Bismarck's foreign policy. France humiliated post Battle of Sedan, जो हमने अभी लिखा था, right? Harsh Treaty of Frankfurt was imposed. So Bismarck was aware that France to make every effort to take revenge for humiliation. Now, if we want to avoid this, this challenge could not be alone by France. France अकेला तो नहीं कर सकता. But when France isolated, it granted German dominance. So keep the French state isolated. Let them have no friends. Bismarck's foreign policy used to enable expansion of German colonial empire, not in Europe, but they will expand in Afro-Asian region. They will go to Africa and acquire territories. Post Battle of Sedan, Germany is most powerful. Bismarck wanted to carry prestige to highest point. During those days, what was the high point of your prestige? Judged by basis of the extent of colonial empire. Bigger the colonial empire, more powerful and respectable the countries. So Bismarck said Germany will have the biggest empire now. Now, once Bismarck says this, obviously Britain will become an enemy, because Britain at that time was the great power. Now, Bismarck wanted to use his foreign policy to strengthen process of economic advancement. Post 1870, industrialization gained momentum in Germany. So Bismarck is isolating France, making others friends, and challenging the supremacy of British colonial empire. That is it. This is Bismarck's foreign policy and its aims. Now, what is the nature and character of this foreign policy of Bismarck? If we need to understand, let's first understand the features. Features of Bismarck foreign policy. When I examination of aims and objectives, when I examine the aims and objectives and the manner of the execution, how Bismarck executed his foreign policy, examination of aims and objectives and manner of execution of Bismarck's foreign policy reveal the nature and character. What were his aims? How is implemented? We understand what was the nature. It was pragmatic in character. I have already told you what is pragmatic. It was pragmatic in character. You remember word pragmatic? In international relations, there are three things. There is idealism, there is realism, and there is pragmatism, right? So it was pragmatic in character, belief in real politics and directed as per needs of time. Real politics, when need, let's find solution to fight. It is system of peacetime military alliances. There is no war, but he will make alliances with other nations against France so that France is isolated. There is peace, no war, still he is making alliances against France. An important feature is system of peacetime military alliances. First time during modern age, such alliances, all his alliances were established. Such alliances were established. Most of them kept secret and directed at each other. Now I tell you the most funny thing about Bismarck. Bismarck in Germany made an alliance with Austria called dual alliance. Right? Germany is now having a dual alliance with Austria. Then after some time, Russia joined the alliance. It became Three Emperors League. We will study there. Three Emperors League. Now Germany, Austria, Russia, they are three friends. Bismarck has managed to make three of them friends, and France is now isolated. After some time, Russia and Austria developed some differences over Serbia. Austria controls Serbia, Russia claims Serbia. So that means two partners of my alliance are fighting. Bismarck is so clever. He met Austria king separately, said our dual alliance is intact. This man is bastard. He always asks for extra things. Forget about him. We will keep this intact. Don't tell anyone. We are friends. He said, great. Okay. Then he met him secretly. He said, Austria is always bastard. They always ask for unnecessary things. We sign a separate treaty. Let's be friends. Let Austria doesn't know this. Now only Bismarck can do this. Till Bismarck is there, he will keep three together without each other knowing it. It is secret. Russia wants to fight Austria. Austria wants to fight Russia. Bismarck is friends with both. The day Bismarck is gone, no one in Germany can now manage both the alliances. They continued the alliance with Austria. They forgot to continue with Russia. France signed an alliance with Russia. And when World War started, both France and Russia attacked Germany and Germany was defeated. So Bismarck was required for this. He created such a complex web of alliances, nobody could handle it after him. ना ज़्यादा इंटेलिजेंट होना भी नुकसान करता है ना फिर. All right. So continuing next. It was opportunist in character. Bismarck is very opportunist. His foreign policy is opportunist. Alliances and treaties as per need of time. जिससे दोस्ती करके फायदा होगा उससे कर लेगा. Right? No fundamental principle or ideology. No ethics or no moral basis. जो चल रहा चलने दो. इसको पागल बनाओ, उसको पागल बनाओ. Keep people like befool the people. Make sure that Germany is strong. That is what the nature is. Guided by German national interest, used by Bismarck to safeguard German economic and political interest. He is doing everything to make Germany strong. Militarism is clearly visible. What he is doing? He is telling everyone that peace can be maintained only by being ready for war, keep making weapons and be ready for war. Then it evolved with passage of time. Beginning in 1872, it was regularly modified to safeguard German interest. So the character of Bismarck's foreign policy is pragmatic, peacetime military alliances, then it is secret alliances, it is opportunist, guided by German national interest, militarism as a strong element, and it evolved and constantly changed. These are the character of Bismarck's foreign policy. Now we have to talk about Bismarck's system of alliances that I was explaining you. Number one, League of Three Emperors. It was established in 1873. German Emperor, not Empire, Emperor Kaiser William I, Austrian Emperor Francis Joseph, and Russian Emperor Alexander II. So all empires are equal to emperors, right? Then outcome, there was a conference of three emperors and three emperors met in Berlin in 1872. 1 year before this, 1872, three emperors met and they signed League of Three Emperors. The three kings became friends. Meeting of the three emperors in Berlin, William I of Germany, Francis Joseph I of Austria, and Alexander II of Russia, standing the Mr. Bismarck, Andrewsay, and Khrushchev. Don't remember this. I don't know why I put this. Just remember this one, right? Now that they made three emperors League of Three Emperors, now dual alliance 1879. In October 1879, Bismarck made dual alliance with Austria-Hungary. Why? Because League of Three Emperors collapsed in 1877-78. Now, why this League of Three Emperors collapsed? 1875 Eastern Question resurfaced. What is Eastern Question? 1877, Russia attacked Ottoman Empire and imposed Treaty of San Stefano. Now listen to this very carefully. This may cause some confusion. 1877, Russia attacked Ottoman Empire, defeated them, imposed Treaty of San Stefano. Great Russian influence over Eastern Europe, and Britain doesn't like it. France doesn't like it. So Britain and France were against this. So was Austria, because because Russia is entering into European side and they may take Russian territory too, right? Against Britain and Austro-Hungarian interest, if Russia enters into Eastern Europe, neither Britain is happy nor Austria is happy. Russia threatened safety of international sea routes passing through the Mediterranean. ये मैंने सारा कल समझाया था. Then growing Russian influence in Eastern Europe can strengthen the Serb-Slavic nationalism. Now I have to explain you what is Serb-Slavic nationalism. Threat to the existence of Austro-Hungarian Empire. Look at this. This big country called Russia. As we can say now that in China and other sides, Korea and other, it's the Mongoloid people who live, right? Mongoloid people. There are people like Alpines, Mongolites, Afrikites, Negroids who live in Africa. So these are races. The people living in Russia are Slavic people, Slavs. They are called Slavs or Slavic people. The people living in Austria, on the borders of Austria, in Serbia, in Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, they again are Slavic people. Russia is the biggest Slavic country. All other are smaller, be it Serbia, be it Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia. The Tsar of Russia was very clever. He said, if I get these territories out of the control of Austria, Austria controlled Serbia and Czechoslovakia region, the Tsar of Russia thought, I will provoke them that you should get independence. People of Serbia or Czechoslovakia, you should get independence. Third point, Austria-Hungarian interest. That's what exactly I'm explaining now. Otherwise, I did explain them yesterday. I will go back and start again explaining the same thing now. Listen to this very carefully. This is one big Russia, and this Russia is a Slavic country. The Slavs live here. Then on the borders, there is Serbia, but this Serbia is controlled by Austria, and Austria is not a Slavic race. Serbia is Slavic, right? So the Tsar of Russia, he is being very smart. He is provoking the Serbians that why don't you seek your independence from Austria? I will give you all the weapons, all the army support, all the money, as let's say Pakistan give to the militants in India. So Russia said, I will give you all the support, fight against Austria and seek your independence. If tomorrow you become independent, I'm very happy. But at the back of his mind, Tsar thinks, let Serbia once be independent, I will take it over as a Slavic nation. Serbia will become part of Russia. That was plan of Tsar. Now, because against British and Austro-Hungarian interest, Russia threatened safety of international sea routes passing through Mediterranean, and growing Russian influence in Eastern Europe strengthening Serb-Slavic nationalism, threat to existence of Austro-Hungarian Empire. Clear ho gaya ye point? If Russia moves to Eastern Europe, they provoke the Serbs, and if Serbs are provoked, Austrian Empire will break down. So British and Austro-Hungarian opposition, Bismarck had to call Berlin Conference. Germany, Berlin, Bismarck is head. In 1878, to review provisions of treaty conference chaired by Bismarck. This San Stefano, which has given Russia a strong influence in Eastern Europe. Now Bismarck said, this is not allowed, I'm sorry. Because Russian Tsar Alexander II held Bismarck responsible for Russian humiliation at Berlin Conference, because the Treaty of San Stefano was altered to Russian disadvantage. Bismarck said Russia cannot have this power in Eastern Europe. I'm sorry, neither Britain is happy nor Austria is happy, and I cannot afford these two players to be unhappy to keep Russia happy. So Russia is feeling like cheated by Bismarck, so they broke the Three Emperors League. Now, because the Three Emperor League is broken because of Eastern question, Bismarck ended up doing the dual alliance with Austria. But Bismarck is Bismarck. He will bring back League of Three Nations. He will bring back Russia, June 1881. 1881, Alexander II died and succeeded by Tsar Alexander III. It was not just in France that Louis I, II, III. In Russia, Alexander II, III is going on, right? So when he became Tsar, Alexander III, now he is not having the old story alive. No bad memory of Berlin Conference of 1878 because he was not there, so he's not feeling bad. Moreover, Russia is facing British pressure because of presence in Egypt. You know what happened? Britain intentionally came to Africa and occupied Egypt, and here is Mediterranean. Russia wanted to come to Mediterranean, so that Russia must not come to the Mediterranean region. Britain occupied Egypt on the fringe of Mediterranean. Now Russia is having all the problems because British have entered Egypt. They cannot come to Mediterranean. Alexander III now eager to revive alliance with Germany. He wanted to revive the alliance. So Bismarck used this opportunity, not opposition, opportunity to create League of Three Nations, initially for 3 years and renewed periodically. He said, see, Austria, Russia keep on fighting. That caused trouble to me in Germany. I am making this three alliance once again, but it is only for 3 years. Let's see if we can live together happily or not. Done. Now, Triple Alliance, 20th May 1882. Now, this is Triple Alliance. This is very important. I tell you this story and you will love Bismarck all the more. अभी तक तो बहुत प्यार हो गया, अब उससे भी ज्यादा हो जाएगा. This is Germany. This is Russia. This is France. This is Britain. This is Austria. This is Italy. Russia is friend with Germany. Austria is friend with Germany. Now only Italy is left here, right? Now what happens next is Bismarck came to know, he's very shrewd, he is knowing everything. He came to know that France is looking for some territory in Africa. France is looking for some territory in Africa, and the same territory even Italy wants to grab, right? Italy wants to grab the same territory in Africa which France is looking at. Bismarck played such a smart game. He sent a secret message to France. The message was, go ahead, take over the African territory. If anybody will object, I will support you. Now, why he's doing it? So that France must not remain strong enemy. He said, see, I'm doing you a favor. I'm helping you get a territory in Africa. Now, because of the assurance of Bismarck from Germany, France immediately acted and took over African territory. Italy was so badly shattered that I'm so weak, I cannot do anything. Italy requested Bismarck for an alliance against France. French isolation completed. Bismarck created this opportunity that Italy should request an alliance against France so that they can never become friends in future. Now that's Mr. Bismarck. So Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy at Italian request. This will happen at Italian request, this triple alliance of 1882. 1881, France captured Tunisia in Africa, eyed by Italy. Bismarck secretly assisted France. French success at colonial front to help Frenchmen in forgetting humiliation of 1870. France भी थोड़ा शांत हो जाएगा, right? Because we are helping France. Italy realized her weakness. Repeated request to Bismarck for German alliance. Bismarck accepted after repeated request, carried Bismarck system to climax. Culmination of policy initiated by Bismarck in 1872. French isolation is complete. Now there is no friend left in Europe for France to rely on. Now, reinsurance treaty. League of Three Nations established in 1881 again collapsed in 1890. Russia will always create problem. Re-emergence of Eastern question. Russia is again trying to come to Eastern Europe. Austria is not happy. So that three nations again dissolved. 1887, revolt in Bulgaria supported by Russia. Bulgaria is the territory of Ottomans, and because Russia is interfering, nobody is happy. That's why Three Emperor League collapsed. With the collapse of three nations, convinced Bismarck that Austrian and Russian alliance must be handled separately. So he signed reinsurance treaty with Russia in 1887, which was to be renewed every 3 years. So now he will keep Russia separate and Austria separate. Critical examination of the impact of Bismarck's foreign policy. Now this is the last slide for us for the day, right? Now if I study it, Bismarck's foreign policy was highly successful in accomplishing its objectives. France is isolated, but only till the time Bismarck was German Chancellor. The day Bismarck is gone, everything will collapse. For more than 20 years, France was isolated. Europe was in peace and stability. Bismarck's system of alliances was successfully established, but it established German dominance in Europe. So there was no challenge to Germany till the time Bismarck is there. His foreign policy was highly successful in short run, but in the long run, it proved very fatal. It led to World War. How? System of alliances was complex, can be managed by a master like Bismarck. His resignation paved way for two mutually hostile armed camps in Europe. Now, how these armed camps happened? 1890, German King Kaiser William II, he refused to renew reinsurance treaty with Russia, which Bismarck has signed for 3 years. King did not because Bismarck has resigned. When they did not renew it with Russia, 1894, Franco-Russian alliance was signed. France and Russia became friends. Germany, France, Russia. France and Russia have become friends. The entire plan of Bismarck has collapsed. This is what he has been doing for last 20 years. Today, King failed the entire plan. Right? Franco-Prussian Russian alliance proves isolation and ends isolation of France, and first anti-German alliance is made. France is no more isolated. They have got the friendship of Russians. Anti-German alliance is made. 1904, Anglo-French Entente Cordial was signed. Britain and France became friends because even Britain is not happy with the way Germany is trying to expand its colonial empire. So Anglo-French Entente Cordial was signed. Russia joined in 1907. This becomes Triple Alliance. Now division of Europe into two mutually hostile camps, armed camps, circumstances for World War came. Look at this. This is your Europe. This is Europe. There is Germany, there is France, there is Britain, there is Russia, Austria, and Italy. Right? These are the states. Germany, Italy, and Austria, they have signed Triple Alliance. France, Britain, and Russia have signed Triple Entente. Three countries friends, France, Britain, Russia in Triple Entente. Germany, Italy, and Austria in Triple Alliance. This is center of Europe. This group is called Central Powers. Central Powers. The three became friends against the Central Powers. They are called the Allies. Right? Triple Ententes are called the Allies, and Triple Alliance is called Central Power. Now, this is one group. This is second group between which there will be World War I. So Bismarck's system of alliances created that alliance web which will lead to World War I.